Hello YouTube. This video is about how to use Wing Chun in MMA, aka Wing Chun concepts for MMA. Now, firstly I have to mention that in order to spar with a MMA guy, or if you wish to become an MMA guy, you have to learn its essential martial arts styles known as uh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, boxing, and Muay Thai. So, in order to use these Wing Chun concepts in an MMA scenario, you have to be master at its essential styles, as I mentioned before. So, this video is about for the guys who already know MMA, for the guys who already know how to box, how to wrestle, how to do grappling in ground fighting, as well as who knows how to use their 8 limbs in Muay Thai, clinch fighting. So you can apply other martial art concepts only if you already know the basic structure of MMA, the basic way of MMA. So right, otherwise you cannot apply any other martial art. That means, of course, you can see karate, Wing Chun, JKD concepts in MMA contests, but those MMA fighters already know the essential styles in MMA. So there is a huge problem in the martial art community because a lot of traditional stylists always they shout when they see some traditional techniques in the MMA, but they are not following the MMA way, right? Those people do not follow the MMA way, but they are so happy when the MMA fighters do use the traditional martial art concepts. But that doesn't mean that you can do it without knowing the MMA style, right? Of course, you can apply any martial art style into MMA situation, as well as you can use them when you fight a elite MMA fighter. But firstly, you have to be master at the essential styles which are which are recommended to MMA. I will mention them again: Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and boxing. Without following them, it doesn't matter how many years that you have been practice these Wing Chun or other style of concept, you cannot apply these in an MMA situation. So this is for the martial artists who already know how to box, who already know how to roll, how to wrestle, and how to do Muay Thai techniques, right? Otherwise, you cannot apply these Wing Chun stuff alone in an MMA situation, right? So, because if you have already searched in YouTube Wing Chun versus other style, that we can see that Wing Chun fighters have been defeated a lot of situations, right? Because Wing Chun style is great in concepts, but when you are going to apply those concepts, it has to be adapted according to the given scenario, right? You cannot apply traditional Wing Chun alone as it is. You have to adapt those techniques into the MMA scenario, right? Even in the street fight, let's assume that MMA guy, you are facing a MMA guy in a street situation, yet he can defeat you uh, even if it is an oral of situation, right? So you can apply Wing Chun, but you have to know the essential styles of Wing Chun. I am telling that again and again and again. You have to know how to box. You have to know how to kick from Muay Thai. You have to know how to wrestle, and you have to know how to do BJJ. Just knowing Wing Chun would not help you in a MMA situation. I am telling you this again. Now, if you are going to use other style, that let's take this example. Knowing Wing Chun is not it is not a compulsory subject, right? That means you don't have to learn Wing Chun in order to become an elite fighter or MMA fighter. Just having BJJ, boxing, wrestling, and Muay Thai is enough. But we can say that this can be used as optional things, right? So knowing Wing Chun concept is not a compulsory thing, but it can be an advantage to know something uh, something more than a typical MMA fighter do know, right? So I'm telling you this again. Just watching these videos and just knowing this concept would not help you in an MMA situation. So, but if you already know how to box, how to do MMA, right? Of course, definitely you can have a lot of advantage of this from these concepts. Now let's focus. Who are the fighters of MMA who successfully used Wing Chun concepts in MMA situation? Number one is Tony Ferguson. If you watch his MMA bouts very carefully, you can clearly see that he has been Wing Chun concepts for a long time. Not only that, but also the great Anderson Silva, he also uses Wing Chun concepts. But firstly, you must be master at the common structure. Otherwise, you cannot apply this. Okay. Now, I assume you already know the common MMA structure. Right. Now, let's talk about the traditional Wing Chun. I am talking about the 4 dimensions of Wing Chun art. 4 dimensions. What are those 4 dimensions? In order to discuss these 4 dimensions, firstly, we have to be educated at the center line theory. Center line theory is a imaginary line. Center line is an imaginary line which divides your body apart in the same size, right? So it goes from the top of your head and to the bottom, and it divides your body 2 parts in the same sizes, in the same pieces. Now this is the center line, because this center line is very important, because a lot of vital parts are located in this center line, right? So now you have 2 parts in our body. Not only that, but also that vertical line intercepts. Vertical line is intercepted by a horizontal line. So you can see you can imagine an imaginary horizontal line like this, like a crucifix, right? Like a cross, right? So now basically a Wing Chun fighter put his arms in this center line. He basically places his hands on this center line. Now they can use many names for these hands, Wu Sao, Man Sao. I am not using those traditional names. So basically you are using, now my camera is located kind of below position, kind of a low position, so therefore it is very hard to show the real techniques. This is a conceptual video anyway. So the Wing Chun fighter basically place his guarding hand and attacking hand in this center line. Now you can see this 4 dimensions. I can describe the 4 dimensions by referring these center line theory. Now let's talk about this frontal hand. You can see the first dimension. It is known as the height. Height means from this point to this point you can see the height. Now from this elbow to this elbow, it represents the width. Is the second dimension. Also you have the depth. Now this depth means the hands which are towards you. It's the third dimension. What is the fourth dimension? Fourth dimension is the timing. Timing means, yes, you might have seen M.M.A, and you might have seen that some Wing Chun practitioner dodges and some Wing Chun practitioner dodge and parries, strike whilst they are while they stay on the spot. But in the real fighting situation, you cannot dodge punches, strikes while you are staying in the on in the same position. You have to move. You have to move forward. Now that means if somebody tries to attack us, in order to uh, attack, he has to move into us. Now that's the timing. When he does his movement towards us, at the same time, it is like an intercept. It is the intercepting. As he tries to kick or punch or grapple or whatever, uh, what we do is we are going to intercept his movement by timing it. That means we move forward. It doesn't matter whether you block the punch, whether you parry the punch, or whether you attack. Basically, Wing Chun is an attacking style. All the time we are going to attack toward the center line. Center line means it is the now in this case we are going to attack the center line, plus we are going to use the line dimensions of depth. Now from A to B position, if you are talking about the distances, the shortest distance that you can deliver an attack is the center. I mean, is the straight line. So a Wing Chun practitioner always tries to shorten the distance so you can minimize the time, so that equals the speed to generate the high speed. So he uses the straight line from A to B by using a straight attacks basically. So basically he tries to attack from to his nearest target. I mean, as the opponent tries to attack you, or whether he does not strike at you, what you try to do is attack him through his center line by following your center line. If the opponent tries to block it or whatever, still the Wing Chun practitioner tries to goes into the center line, the nearest target. I mean, basically he attacks to the jaw. So the fourth dimension, these are all about the fourth dimension. So now again, this is the first dimension. You are covering the center line. From here to here you have the height. From this elbow point to this elbow point you have the width. The hands towards you represent the depth, and the fourth dimension is the timing. If somebody tries to move forward at the same time as the moment he tries to come at us, we go inside. So that's the timing. That's the fourth dimension. Timing, height, width, depth, and the timing. So that these are the four dimensions in Wing Chun. So these are really good fighting concepts if you are going to use these in an MMA situation. Now firstly I will explain this in the traditional eye. So basically Wing Chun fighters do stay kind of this awkward stance, crazy god stance. Anyway, this is just a practice. In reality you cannot fight like this, but this fighting stance has some kind of concepts, right? That means this knee is these inverted knees basically protect our groin. Let's imagine there is an opponent standing in front of us, so he cannot easily attack to our groin because of this knee. This knee covers our groin, and this is the below part. And then you place your hands like this. Basically your weight is projected in the front. You are always trying to launch at your opponent. Your weight distribution is in forward. That means your weight is basically in the toes. Now actually I firstly learned these concepts through the BJJ from basically the Invisible Jiu-Jitsu. Basically the Grandmaster Rickson Gracie teaches about the weight distribution, right? The weight distribution is like you are always going to forward. Your weight is always going to the forward direction. Your weight is basically in your toes. So these arms are these arms are used as a fence, the barrier. There is a huge weight distribution throughout this hand. If he tries to push us, he cannot push us because this is invisible juice. You can see, and if the guy is trying to attack us, you can block it by a very good weight. His attack cannot reach to our head. So it is self-defense. It is not fighting. It is self-defense. In fighting situation, you cannot stay this square up stance. You have to place your one leg back, and everybody knows that that's the way of fighting. But in self-defense situation, you can stay in square up stance. So that same weight distribution is applied in this traditional Wing Chun stance as well, right? In the traditional Wing Chun, your all weight is directed towards the floor, like a triangle situation, like a triangle move, and your weight is basically in the toes, right? So now my weight is forward. My weight distribution is placed in the forward, so I have a good good weight in my hands as well. So if any attack is delivered at me, I can block it. I can block the attack with the weight. I mean, let's imagine if somebody comes to the haymaker punch, if I block, his attack would not reach to our jaw because it has a good weight, right? So this is the self-defense stance. When it comes to a fighting situation, you cannot use this stance. So you have to place one leg forward like this in this situation. Now, when it comes to MMA, this is the traditional fighting stance. When it comes to the MMA, this has to be changed a lot. Now, Wing Chun is a close quarter fighting system. That means close quarter means basically when it comes to combat, there are 4 combat ranges, right? Of course, we can fight by standing up. Also, we can go to the ground. When it comes to the stand-up fighting, the combat starts from the kicking range. Kicking range means you can extend your kick, and it's all about kicks. You cannot punch, right? Then it comes to the boxing range. You may be able to do some kicks, but in order to do some long range kicks, you have to back up to the kicking range. So this is the boxing range. That means your arm is fully extended. The close quarter range means it is the tiny gap between grappling and striking. Now it's very hard to recognize. A lot of fighting styles, almost every fighting style talk about this close quarter range, but Wing Chun emphasizes this close quarter fighting range. The close quarter fighting range means you can attack. You can do kicking, punching. You can do kicking and punching at the same time. Now, let's talk about this pose. This is a cardboard pose anyway. Now, in the close quarter range, also known as the Wing Chun range, in the Wing Chun range, you can also use kicks and you can also use the punches. Punching and kicking at the same time, right? You can use every body limbs in the striking. You can use headbutt, you can use elbow, knees, you can use any body part as the weapon in the striking range at the same time. Now, when it comes to long range kicking styles, when you kick, you cannot punch, you cannot do headbutt. What you only can do is the kicking. When it comes to the boxing range, the punching range, basically the boxing range, what you can only do is the boxing. Now the close quarter range, of course, you can do kicking and punching, elbow, headbutt, everything. So this is the Wing Chun range. This is the Wing Chun range, right? So Wing Chun fighters, it is their home, right? Now, after that movement, where you cannot use any strikes, are known as the pure grappling range. Of course, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, also talk about the close quarter fighting range and the pure grappling range, because if somebody can punch or strikes with the clinch, it means it is the close quarter range. That means you can even use clinch, you can even use strike. But the grappling is that you cannot do any strikes effectively, also known as the body clinch, right? The basic use of body clinch. So any effective strikes cannot be reached at that movement. So that's the grappling range. Now, by following that grappling range, you can take the fight to the ground, and it is known as the ground fighting. However, Wing Chun fighters' home is that is close quarter fighting range. So that's their home. So their whole martial art is based on that close quarter fighting range. Yes, I mean, Wing Chun fighters cannot fight in this range. I mean, by just staying in their other fighters' kicking range, they are going to fail. When it comes to boxing, of course, they are going to fail. But Wing Chun fighters are going to use this range into their advantage. That means the close quarter fighting range. But they don't know how to grapple. They don't know how to grapple, because that's the reason why they are going to fail in the modern martial art. Because you can see a lot of elite grapplers. So when they go to use these close quarter tactics while they do not know how to grapple, they get tackled out, and they are going to end up on the ground. So that's why I say you have to know the basic styles, then only you can apply these things. So actually, Wing Chun fighters are really weak in ground game. So this stance or this kind of stance is not good in the modern martial art day, right? You cannot use them effectively. Definitely, this is really vulnerable for takedowns, right? So we have to omit this. But in order to show the concepts, I have to use this traditional fighting stance, right? Now, when we are going to fight like this, it's a very short fighting stance, right? Now, when the grappling is involved, you have to come back to a long and deep stances again. Let's talk about it later on. So now, however, there are two traditional stances. This is the self-defense stance, and these are the traditional stance. Of course, Wing Chun had been a sport before. Every Wing Chun fighter nowadays try to mention that Wing Chun is not a sport. It is only a no. It's bullshit. Wing Chun had been used in kung fu tournaments in early China, right? So they had been doing quite good job in these days, because there is no grappling. I mean, purely they were fighting against another kung fu stylist. They didn't meet good elite boxers at that time, so therefore they were good at that time. But the problem is that they did not. They didn't get updated themselves. That's the problem. That's why the Wing Chun has gone down. That's the problem, right? Now, anyway, in this situation, let's talk about the traditional strikers. Now, I am not facing. Let's imagine that I'm not going to face a elite MMA fighter. Let's say he knows something little bit. Maybe he's a taekwondo fighter or whatever. In order to Now let's imagine a taekwondo fight. In order to use taekwondo fighter tactics, in order to use some kind of kicks, long range kicks, he has to move forward. He has to enter to his kicking range. Now, if we didn't move, and if we are going to stay at the same position, definitely that taekwondo fighter can knock me down by his roundhouse kicks or whatever kicks, because we didn't move, we didn't intercept, we didn't use the fourth dimension known as the timing. Yes, we are using the other three dimensions which are known as the height and width and the depth, but we didn't apply the fourth one. When you are using the Wing Chun concepts in the fighting, you have to apply all of these fourth dimension in the same time. So you cannot miss anything. If you can use one of these, definitely you can be succeed at that cases. Now, let's imagine again back to the taekwondo position. Now, let's see that there's a taekwondo fighter in front of us, and he's going to deliver a roundhouse kick to our temple. Now, of course, we cannot stay at that position. Now, from his perspective, in order to use his uh, roundhouse kick, he has to come forward. He has to stay in the kicking range. Let's say the rear kick, he must stay in his kicking range to use his kicking range, kicks. And if he is going to use the front kick, he has to use the rear leg towards to the frontal leg, and he has to go apply that frontal roundhouse kick. However, he has to come to his range. Now, if he only knows the taekwondo, he would not come very closer. That means he would not enter the punching range. He would not enter the close quarter range, or definitely he will not grapple. I'm talking about the guy who knows only taekwondo, right? Now, what about if he stays far away? What about if he stays away from his striking range? I mean, the kicking range. Now, kicking range means this is the range. This is the range of kicking, right? This is the range of kicking. Now, let's say he is out of his kicking range. So, he cannot use any techniques. Let's talk about the boxing, the boxer. The boxer is, let's talk about the pure MMA martial artist in this case. For instance, for example, just for a few moments, in order to use any techniques among us, he has to enter at least one of these combat ranges. If somebody stays out of the combat range, out of all of 4 combat ranges, he cannot use any attacking towards us. Even though, he cannot even use grappling and ground fighting as well. Now, let's imagine when it comes to Wing Chun fighter, firstly he pay the attention whether my opponent is in the combat range. The combat range starts when it comes to the kicking range. So basically, the Wing Chun fighter pay his attention whether my fighter is in the kicking range. He does not give any chances to enter to our combat ranges, right? He does not give any chances. He does not let to do that to the other fighter, right? Now, there's an opponent. Let's imagine there's an opponent in front of us, and if he is in the out of kicking range, the Wing Chun fighter is very comfortable. He's not going to he's not going to chase their opponents in that case. But at the very moment he tries to enter to the combat range, combat range starts by the kicking range. At the very first moment, he times. Just imagine that I have an opponent. He is out of the kicking range. Kicking range is the first combat range, and Wing Chun fight is like he's like a cobra. He's like a cobra waiting, right, like this. And at the very first moment, he sees that his opponent enters the kicking range. At the very moment, he tried to intercept. Basically, he intercept by a kick, right? Because the punching are very shorter than the kicks. Punches are very shorter than the kicks. Let's imagine that there is an opponent in front of me, but he is out of the kicking range. Now, if I am just doing Wing Chun, I am not going to chase him, right? But the guy who stays in front of us tries to enter to our combat range. Maybe he's trying to kick us. Maybe he's trying to punch us. Maybe he will also tries to use these close quarter fighting concept, or he will take us to the ground. So at the very first moment, if we see the guy enters to our combat range from the kicking range, at the very first moment, if you see your opponent's feet are on the kicking range, at that moment you are going to kick and punch, and you do your Wing Chun style punches. Now basically Wing Chun is a punching style, right? Basically they try to kick. Basically the Wing Chun fighters use low kicks to achieve this concept. Now there is a guy over there and he is out of our range, and I'm really comfortable in this situation, right? But the guy, that my opponent tries to enter to my combat ranges in order to hit me. Maybe he will try to use kicks, maybe he will try to do punches, or maybe he will try to do the same concepts against me, or he will try to take me into the ground by entering to the grappling range. However, I see that his leg, his basically his front legs enters, as I can see his front leg is placed on the range where he is supposed to do kicks. At the same time, I use my kicks and punch, kick and punch at the same time. Now, Wing Chun punch, when it comes to Wing Chun punch, it's a short punches. It is, it is a lot different than the boxing punches. Now, Wing Chun guys basically use their punching by the drop step. It is some kind of same as boxing. So this is the drop step. They are using your whole weight in order to generate their power by using their drop step. Now, the real leg acts as a spring. The real leg acts as a spring, and you drop, and you are using your whole body, right? You are using your ankle, you are using your knees, hips, the torso, elbow, and the fist. All the things, you are using all of these elements together. It is becoming basically more than now. If we are going to value these strikes in a scaling system, actually we can generate more the strike which can be valued more than 5. That means any strikes can be valued according to these criteria. What are these criteria? How many joints you are going to use in order to generate the power. That means when it comes to the striking martial arts, we have to use our kinetic energy. There are two types of kinetic energy. The first one is the frontal kinetic energy, moving forward as we are moving. The other one is the rotational kinetic energy. It is about how we move our joints in within ourselves. So you have to use both of these forces at the same time. Then only we can use the higher. Then only we can generate a higher attacking in our striking martial arts, right? So this is about the striking, right? Now our whole way is basically in the back line. We have to generate this power to forward. We are jumping. Basically we are jumping like this. We are going to project our whole body like a jump, right? Like a jump. As you are going to project it, you are going to drop your step by the front leg. It's a drop step. While you are dropping that front leg, you are going to use your whole rotational kinetic energy by using your hip, your torso, your elbow, and the fist at the same time, like this. This is the force. I do not have any partner. I do not have any pad hold at this time. I guess you have got that idea. This is the punch, right? Now this is the punch at this moment. Just imagine there is an opponent. I have to jump. Jump and drop, right? Jump and drop, right? Basically in the fight, I'm not going to telegraph this, right? This is about to teach you the concept. In the fight, you have to use your whole body. It's a very short range punch. It may not look like a very powerful punch, but when it comes to close quarter range, it is a very devastating punch. Yes, of course, it is not powerful as the boxing cross, but it can be used in order to knock somebody out. Now, this is the Wing Chun concept. Basically, Wing Chun, the Wing Chun tactics is all about basically Wing Chun guy. Now, yes, I guess you might have seen M.M.A, right? You can see a lot of chain punches, but the Wing Chun idea is so simple. Wing Chun idea is to knock somebody out as soon as possible from the first try. Now the Wing Chun punch, I mean, if somebody stays out of the kicking range, and when somebody tries to enter to our combat range to the kicking range, yes, of course, we are using our jumping method, right? Jumping basic Wing Chun movements. I'm not going to teach them. Basically, as he is trying to attack us, we are going to attack through a as he tries to attack us, we are going to attack through a kick. I mean, basically this kind of stuff. I mean, it's not a side kick. I mean, it's not a traditional side kick. It looks like the side kick. We are basically going to attack a kick to destruct his balance, his base. To end, I'm using my kick as a tool, as a way to enter to my close quarter range, so he cannot counter me. I mean, he cannot, if he tries to kick me, at the same time I'm using my kick by entering to his range, and with that kick alone you cannot knock anybody out because it is a very short range kick. We are using that kick as a passage to enter to our close quarter range. At the same time, we are using that punch what I taught you a moment ago. If the first punch doesn't do the job of knocking him out, we are using another strike, we are using another strike, we are using another strike. That's how the wheel punching has been developed. Now, a lot of martial art enthusiasts use this wheel punch as a demonstrational purpose, but basically this is the purpose of the wheel punch. Actually, the Wing Chun guy always tries to knock somebody out with the first punch. If the first punch doesn't do the job, he will do the wheel punch. Wheel punch means the next punch will next punch, other like that. But this is the traditional. This is, now you can say these are very nice concepts. But when you are going to apply these traditional concepts, you have to adapt these concepts to the way of fighting which you have already learned now. I mean, without knowing the art of boxing, without knowing how to grappling, without knowing how to do ground fighting, without knowing how to Muay Thai, you cannot apply these things. You cannot apply these concepts as it is shown. So basically, now basically you cannot stay in these short stances in MMA because it's so vulnerable for the takedowns, right? Of course, you can control the grappler who does not know grappling much. Let's say the street grapplers. Of course, you can maintain street grapplers because in Wing Chun, we are talking about immovable elbow. Immovable elbow means the elbow which stays stationary in a given positions, right? So that means this elbow position is really essential because in order to catch, I mean, this is not about grappling against elite grappler. It's about the street grappler. If a street grappler try to hug or take us to the ground, these immovable elbows really help us to stop him. Stop him to prevent his takedown attempt. But these traditional concepts alone would not help you when it comes to a sparring situation where you have to spar with the very elite grapplers and the elite MMA fighters. So basically, we have to change these according to our situation. So if you are MMA fighter already, you can use this stuff. Basically, we are in MMA. There are so many different MMA striking stances, but the common concept is like that. We are not using any short stances anymore. We are not even using so deep stances because there is no mobility at all. So we are in a decent distance. So basically, we are in our toes. So we can move. It's like point karate, right? But it's not point karate because in karate stances, we are so deep. But we are not bending too much, but our legs are, the width of our legs are a little bit, it's really long, right? So if somebody tries to take us to the ground, this long stance helps in this situation. So basically we are in the toes. This is the basic MMA stance. Nowadays, MMA guys do not switch too much. They are staying like the open hands, so relaxed. So because you have to fight a significantly long time. So your shoulders has to be very relaxed. Yes, of course, when it comes to boxing, you are supposed to place your guard up, but it is only in boxing, right? MMA is all about. Now, basically, MMA fight starts by calling the MMA fighters who were staying at their corners. So they are coming like this, touch the gloves, and basically we are in the MMA fighters are basically in the all the way out. I mean, none of them are staying in the combat ranges at the initial position. They are in the all the way out position, right? At the very first movement, right? We are reading our opponent, and we are in our toes, right? We are in our, so none of them of us are in a dangerous position at the very moment, at the very first moment. If our opponent tries to enter one of our combat ranges, it doesn't matter what technique he tries to do, we intercept by using our Wing Chun tactics. While you are doing, I mean, chain punches can be also applied, but it's not the traditional way. Now you can see there's a fighter called Victor Belfort. He has successfully used wheel punch, but it's not the Wing Chun wheel punch. It is combined with boxing. It is not Wing Chun, but however, Wing Chun wheel punch is also similar to that. So if you get the punch, I mean, in order to use the Wing Chun wheel punch correctly, you have to hurt your opponent a little bit. I mean, it's like when he's in a very stable position, you cannot use wheel punch. The first punch should knock your opponent out temporarily. Like the first punch hit and he goes like this, and then you can use your Wing Chun, but never maintain the short stance, because it's normal that if somebody gets hit, he automatically tries to grab bars. So look the Victor Belfort's video. When your opponent tries to enter to your combat range, at the very first moment he enters to our his kicking range, we intercept by using our Wing Chun concepts, but we are maintaining our comfortable base, and he tries to hit again and again and again and again. At the very, sometimes he may try to, but you have to concern about your elbow position as well. This is the position where you can use the immobile elbow concept. If he tries to grab us, he can use this concept by using our typical grappling skill as well. If he tries to take us to the ground, we can sprawl likewise, sprawl and come up and back up and hit again and again. So that's the way of using MMA concepts in Wing Chun concepts in MMA situations. Thank you. I think you have got a wonderful theories from this video. Thank you so much.